I'm excited to do this one. Let's take a trip back to 2011. Minecraft had just released, the 3DS was just hitting shelves in Japan, and Modern Warfare 3 was set to release on November 8th. Easily becoming my favorite multiplayer COD, I was hyped beyond belief. You see, up until this game, I didn't own my own Xbox, and the only way I could play Call of Duty was when I snuck into my brother's room and messed up his KD. But now it was my time to shine, and I honestly had an amazing year playing this game before the next title was released. Now, a lot of you may remember that Black Ops 2 was the first Call of Duty title to have a season pass, but that's not entirely true. Alongside the launch of Modern Warfare 3, Activision would give us COD Elite. This was a mobile app that was created by Beachhead Studios, which was a subsidiary of Activision. Players could use this online service for varying Call of Duty needs, seeing stats from games, clan information, daily challenges, and plenty more. This app was free, but it had a premium version. This cost $50 and would give the player access to a lot more content. All DLC for the game would be free, and you would gain early access to this DLC. You see, with this service, Infinity Ward would drop content packs containing different maps and missions for premium subscribers. These would release once a month for the full duration of the game, starting after the first one, which was a couple months into its life. And something like this, it was just unheard of at the time, and it really showed the direction that these games were headed. DLC was very important for this franchise, and it's what it needed to last out the year and hold fans' attention. In the end, Modern Warfare 3 was released with 4 collection packs being made of the 9 content packs throughout its life, and I'm here today to tell you about them. These were just named Content Collection 1, 2, 3, and 4. Infinity Ward wasn't very creative back in the early days of Call of Duty. Now, to save myself from rattling off so much, I'm just going to talk about the full collections. And this will be similar to the style of my other DLC videos, which, if you didn't know, I have made DLC videos on many COD games, all shoved into one playlist. So if you like this video, you should check them out as well. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm almost at 5K, and I would love for you to join the horde. And one thing before we start, I do want to say, for the past couple weeks, I've been in the middle of a big move, and I have changed my office, and the sound it's not the same. I recorded everything you just heard before then. Everything after is now with this different sound. It sounds a little different. I don't like it, but I put a lot of work into recording it. I've been very sick, so I also sound a little rough. It was just something I had, but I need to get this video done and get it worked on, so here we are. Hopefully the sound difference kind of evens itself out, and I can fix it over the next couple videos as I moved into this place. But thanks for sticking through. Content Collection 1 is up first, and was released on March 20th, 2012 for Xbox 360, April 19th for PlayStation 3, and May 8th for PC. This is 5 whole months after the game's release. If you did not have COD Elite, you were dry living. This collection was made up of content packs 1, 2, and 3, and contained the multiplayer maps Liberation, Piazza, Overwatch, and Black Box, as well as the Spec Ops Missions Black Ice and Negotiator. This was the first time Infinity Ward had DLC for its Spec Ops mode, and these were just special missions that the players could complete either solo or with friends. Think isolated campaign missions. This is what Infinity Ward had in their games before the massive zombies boom that we see plague every Call of Duty title. It was better when Treyarch was the only one doing it. I mean, let these companies do something else with their time. Where's Extinction 2, damn it? Liberation is up first, and this map takes players to Central Park in Manhattan. And I will say one thing I love about Modern Warfare 3 and the OG Modern Warfare is just how real these maps felt. From the colors to the layout, it truly feels like you're in the middle of New York City when you're playing on this map. There's a large military presence here, but the park's features still stand out, with hot dog stands and gazebos alongside this rather nice lake. I don't really think Modern Warfare 3 gets talked about enough when it comes to multiplayer maps. Next up is Piazza, and for this map we head to Italy. This seaside village is home to many tight spaces and sharp corners, and can be a rather uphill battle for an unprepared team. There's no central theme to the map outside of just being set in Italy, but it still had a great flow. I mean, this was back when the maps were made purely for gameplay. The layouts were methodically made up, and then the city was placed afterward. It's why I love these older games so much. This map isn't made just for the sake of it. After Piazza, we got the map Overwatch. And for this map, we're headed back to Manhattan. I mean, where you at, Peter Parker? Having a large high-rise vibe, this map takes place on top of a skyscraper during construction. I mean, everything about this map is sketchy. Cranes holding up large sections of the building, they're just suspended there. The circular and widely open center of the map makes for some fun gunfights. And I love how Infinity Ward wasn't afraid to give players different routes to get from one place to another. This map is simply just a construction site, but there is so much going on for the player. I mean, back then, we didn't need a map to be located with the Knights of the Round Table for it to be considered considered a good map. You could just be in Manhattan. Last map, Black Box, takes us to a wealthy neighborhood in Los Angeles. Only thing is, Air Force One is here, and there, and over here as well. This is surely the standout map for this DLC. The different buildings comboed with the destroyed plane make for some fun pathways to get into battle. One could use the plane's wing to get to the center of the map and hold out this building, and there was just so much going on in just one little map.
You may leave through the forward exit doors or the gaping hole in the side of the plane.
I mean, this one alone puts most of the newer maps we see today to shame. If this was made now, it'd be some small section of some larger map, and it just wouldn't feel the same, I guarantee it. But that does it for the multiplayer. Let's take a look at Spec Ops. Black Ice is up first, and this mission is set in eastern Siberia. Reminiscent of a fan favorite one from Modern Warfare 2, this Spec Ops starts the player on a snowmobile, making their way to a diamond mine to plant a DSM on a computer to cause a self-destruction sequence. Once planted, the player must escape, all while debris falls and enemies that are fleeing alongside you take pop shots. And now, I was never a massive Spec Ops player. The mode was fun, but I was really in the multiplayer at the time of these games, so I don't have much to say about them. I just wanted to cover them as they did come with the pack. And they certainly were great fun for those fans that loved the single player of these games. The second and last Spec Ops mission was named Negotiator. This one was really cool, and it shined when played in co-op. For this one, the players are in northern India. One player is held captive by 2 Russian commandos. He must disarm one of the guards and kill them to free the other hostages alongside him. And all while this is going on, player 2 is just helplessly captive in a different building. All while commandos are executing the hostages one by one, and if player 1 doesn't make it in time, it's game over and you must restart. For this, the first player must escape in time and breach the second building to save player 2, and then they can make their way to the city's courtyard to disarm a bomb. This was a fun mission, and being able to play these missions co-op, it was a great treat. But that wraps up the first content collection for Modern Warfare 3. A lot of fun was had on these maps, and new Spec Ops missions for the first time was nice to see from the developers. Now, before I talk about the next DLC, I wanted to talk about the multiplayer mode Face Off. This mode was announced on May 9th, 2012, and it featured 3 different variations: 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. Only thing is, instead of using these standard maps from the game's multiplayer, smaller maps specifically for this mode were released. Upon launch, 2 maps were released for all players, and 2 others were included in the second content collection. The 2 free maps were known as Aground and Erosion. Aground takes the player to the coast of Ireland, where the remains of a large transport ship rot. This is easily my favorite face-off map, and I'm a huge fan of ruins like this. I mean, this is considered ruins, right? But the rusty old ship melds well with the green rock faces, and I remember many heart racing matches with friends on this map. Erosion was the other free map, and for it we head to Roman ruins near Mount Vesuvius. Even though this map was small, the varying levels to it made for some funny interactions. Being able to sneak around and flank enemies right under their noses, though most of the time the enemy team would just camp this broken bridge. The face-off mode was a nice breath of fresh air, especially for someone who can only manage to get 2 friends on at a time. But seeing as to how the other 2 maps were in the second content collection, I figured I'll just talk about them with the other DLC maps from the pack. Content Collection 2 was released on May 22nd for Xbox 360 and June 21st for PlayStation 3 and PC, and was made up of the 4th and 5th content packs. Outside of the 2 free face-off maps, this DLC gave players the multiplayer maps Foundation, Oasis, and Sanctuary, as well as the face-off maps Lookout and Getaway, and the Spec Ops missions Ironclad and Kill Switch. Including the 2 free face-off maps, you're looking at one of the largest pieces of downloadable content ever released by Activision, and it was still only $15. 4 maps for a brand new game mode, 3 multiplayer maps, and 2 Spec Ops missions. Sign me up. Foundation is first and takes the player to an old cement factory in South Korea. The buildings of the factory and the large pipes and conveyors loom over the player as you fight in and around different factory buildings. This map is very what if Rust was big, but it still was good for gameplay. The long lines of sights gave snipers and LMGs a place to get some kills, and the tight areas around the buildings made close quarters viable. The different levels of elevation also made for a different tactical advantages, and I overall enjoyed this map a lot. Next map was Oasis, and for this one we're headed to an upscale hotel in Dubai. You already know this map was going to have a desert vibe, but there are splashes of green here and there to make the map pop more. Modern Warfare 3 was very good good at grounding the player inside of their maps, and you really feel like you're inside this city when playing on this one. The older Modern Warfares felt so real to me as a kid. You know, I know COD was never realistic, but from the looks to the movement of the characters, this felt as close to battle as my little heart could get, and I was always impressed with each map released. Sanctuary was next and was the last standard multiplayer map for this DLC, and it takes the player to a monastery in central Greece. This one was very beautiful, taking place mostly outside in courtyards and grave sites, but still having nice service areas and hallways to traverse through inside the map. And the large bridge on the side of it makes for a great spot to snipe. Also, you can look over this cliff and it just adds a surreal depth to the area, and it makes this map feel larger than life. I truly cannot stop being awestruck by these maps, really. Not only in design, but the layout as well. But with that, we can now look at the two other face-off maps that were added with this mode's launch. First is Lookout, and for this one we head to a forward operating base in the hills of Afghanistan. It's a super simple map that works only in face-off. Being so small makes it easy to get back into the action, and the uphill versus downhill really makes you have to prioritize teamwork, even if that didn't happen most of the time. The last face-off map for this DLC pack was Getaway, and for this map we head to a rather nice beach house in Brazil. This is a flip for most of the other face-off maps, having a larger indoor focus to it outside of the more outdoorsy that we've been seeing, but it looks very nice. I mean, this beach house is a dream for many of people. Anybody would love to live in a place like this, and being able to just mess up some teams, it's a good time. The visual for this map are perfect, and it makes a great small team map, really. But again, these face-off maps, they don't really have much to talk about outside of its setting and just a little bit of that, so sorry if I don't speak much on it. But that's it for multiplayer. Let's look at the Spec Ops. First one is Ironclad, and for this mission, the co-op players are split once again. One being located inside of a tank, and the other being outside helping escort it through Hamburg, Germany. This one is very reminiscent to some of the Modern Warfare 2 Spec Ops missions, so it was very nice to see this returning dynamic. And messing shit up in Germany inside of a tank will never not be cool. The last Spec Ops mission was named Kill Switch, and this one tasks the player to detonate an EMP inside of a Russian docking port. This mission wants to be a stealth mission so bad, but I always got spotted. But really, these Spec Ops missions were just something great, and I do love the idea of adding new story into the Call of Duty games that we play. I mean, to think there has never once been a story mode DLC for a single Call of Duty game, and this was the closest we got, really. I mean, I get why not, I'm just saying. But that's it for the second collection. Let's move on to the third. Content Collection 3 came out on August 8th and 9th for the 360. Why both? I have no idea. But it was also released on September 13th for PlayStation and PC. This pack was comprised of most of the content from Collections Packs 6, 7, and 8, but not all, and I'll get to that. For this DLC, we saw no new standard multiplayer maps. Instead, we got 3 face-off maps and a whole 4 Spec Ops missions. The face-off maps were named Intersection, U-Turn, and Vortex, and the Spec Ops missions were Arctic Recon, Light 'em Up, Special Delivery, and Vertigo. And also, alongside these maps, we got the game mode Special Ops Chaos. This was the whole branding for the DLC. It was all over the trailers. It's the name of the pack, but it was just a simple kind of survival-like game mode. You start in with the pistol. The more you kill, the more enemies will show up. You'll gain more points and perks and weapons and everything you need to survive long runs. The mode was a little lackluster, only having 4 of the whole massive group of multiplayer maps being available for this mode. It just seemed kind of out of place. There's so many maps that they've been giving us through DLC, and just when the game launched, why not put more maps on that mode? But it was a very easy pastime, just to sit around and destroy unending hordes of enemies. The mode was completely new to this game, but it was kind of similar to Zombies in that vein of just a survival mode to just go as far as possible. Intersection is first, and this brings the player to a 4-way stop in Brooklyn. And this map is just a super simple setting that feels way larger than it is. This map was always a hard-fought battle. It forced teams to play it smart and not just run out into the open, and the big open center of the street really set up some nice gunfights. Next up is U-Turn, and for this map we are fighting on a road in the Middle East that has been bombed to all hell. This one truly embodies the mode of face-off. It's one side of the street versus the other, and not much cover outside of some roadblocks and totaled cars. It's just a bloodbath. This map is nothing more than a representation of one of many small battles our military was facing during the time this game was based off of. I mean, I really gotta ask, when did they take the war out of Call of Duty? Video idea? Next we look at is Vortex, and not only is this the last face-off map for this DLC, it's the last one for the whole game. Vortex tells the story of a tornado hitting a farm in Tornado Alley inside of the United States. For this map, you are mostly outside, and it does have a nasty nasty storm that's just sitting out of the map. The winds from the storm whip everything around, the shutters, tarps, and trees, they all swish in the wind as you play on the map, and that's just too cool. Face Off really is such a great game mode if done right, and I truly believe Infinity Ward nailed it with the maps for this mode on Modern Warfare 3. I mean, playing Black Ops 6 now, its Face Off feels nothing like this one did in the past. Last, let's look at the Spec Ops mission. First one is Arctic Recon, and for this one, players are tasked to place beacons on the Kavalda warship in Siberia, and they must use these to guide missiles that are going to destroy the ship. This was again another fun mission with a killer setting. Being on this very real warship, it's pretty awesome. Next is Light 'em Up, and this one is awesome in the fact that it's set directly after this game's campaign, and it sees two SAS operatives storming Makarov's stronghold to rescue a captured soldier. This stronghold is located in the Czech Republic and is another very well designed Spec Ops mission, something that you would for sure see in a main game story. And looking back, I kind of hate how they tainted this story's legacy, rebooting it and changing so much of these characters and the story that happens. The animosity between Price and Makarov feels non-existent, and it definitely does not hit as hard. Next is Special Delivery, and this one is again another co-op focused mission that shines with 2 players involved. This is a rescue mission at a hydraulic dam inside of China, and it splits the 2 players up, one being on the ground handling non-stop enemies, and the other is inside an Osprey gunner, lending not only firepower but also able to drop care packages for the ground player. Each player has their own objective for the mission, making it fun to replay any side, you know, whether you're frantically searching for what you need on the ground or desperately trying to save your buddy from himself. And this mission really brought out the fun of this mode. Last mission is Vertigo, and this takes player to Hotel Oasis in Dubai. This mission is very much so a holdout one and places the player on top of this hotel, and it has them lasting through waves of enemy soldiers and helicopters alike. After a bit of holding off these enemies, the players parachute down to the ground for exfil, and I know I said I mostly played multiplayer, but I still remember countless times forcing friends to boot up these missions to chase those golden stars. Such a simple yet headache-inducing pastime. But that wraps up the 3rd content collection for Modern Warfare 3, and we only got one more to go. Content Collection 4 was the final piece of DLC for Modern Warfare 3 and was released on September 6th for Xbox 360 and October 10th for PlayStation and PC. Xbox got this DLC before PlayStation got the 3rd one, and that is wild. This pack contains only multiplayer maps, and 5 at that. These were named Decommission, Offshore, Gulch, Boardwalk, and Parish. Also, I would like to mention that for the 7th collection pack, the players also got Terminal for Modern Warfare 2, and it was completely free. This was alongside some of these maps, so I thought I would mention it here. It was a full 1-to-1 remake. It was very good and was great that it was free for all players. I mean, who doesn't want to play Terminal? First map is Decommission, and this is located at a ship graveyard on the Busassos coast in Somalia. I probably butchered that. This map is just scrapyard with boats, but I can't help but liking it. Remains of old ships make up the layout of this map and provide some decent cover for firefights, and there is a lot of space for sniping. Lots of high up locations inside of ships and buildings, making for a very memorable map either way you look at it. Next up is Offshore, and this map is located at an oil rig off the coast of Russia. This one holds 3 main platforms with small walkways connecting all of them, having many spots to fall off and die in the waters below. The levels of elevation for this map made for a very clustered experience when fighting teams, and objective-based game modes really stood out for this map in particular. It was fun holding off the different sections and buildings, and overall was a rather fun and chaotic close quarters map. After Offshore, we got Gulch, and with this one, we are taking to the Grand Canyon. Specifically, inside of the shell of an old mining town, this map held many branching paths, allowing players to make it from one end of the map to the other in a plethora of ways. A little stream running through the map adds another layer of elevation, and I really like this setting a lot. The locations stand out massively for this game's maps, but kind of in a subtle way. It doesn't scream it at you, but you know you're traveling around the world when you're playing on this game. Next is Boardwalk, and this one is located at a beachside amusement park on the Jersey coast. This sunny map is so far removed from others that it really stands out among all of them. It's a close quarters map, so running and gunning is very viable, and there's plenty of ways to sneak around from section to section along the beach or the boardwalk itself. I always enjoyed loading up this map, but there wasn't many from this game that I didn't like, even if I only wanted Hard Hat or Dome. The others were great. Last map for Modern Warfare 3 is Parish, and being located at a militarized zone in New Orleans, this one hits close to home. I mean, seeing as how I'm from Louisiana, this setting couldn't be any cooler. Buildings in this city are just unmatched in looks and create a perfect backdrop for the map. There's still a large military presence to it, but all it really needs is some jazz music and it's perfect. This map was mostly on the streets, but it did allow the players to enter bits of some of the buildings, and it really couldn't be any cooler, but maybe I'm biased. Now again, Paris was the last map for Modern Warfare 3, and it wrapped up a great year for Call of Duty gaming. Each map seems better than the last, and the addition of the new Spec Ops Missions was something awesome for fans to do outside of just playing multiplayer. And the team adding in a completely new game mode for this game with face-off and making specific maps for that mode, that's just a dedication to the FPS genre. I really believe this kind of heart is what's lacking in the new games. Sure, we see content all the time, but each one is either a trend or something wrapped up in its own idea. The games aren't one whole puzzle, it's just 3 or 4 smashed together, and there really is no individuality around these maps. They're just all one and the same, and it's a little sad. But I'm sure I've spoke on this before, you just don't see maps like this anymore. But what did you think of Modern Warfare 3 and its DLC season? And what about Cod Elite, the precursor to the season pass? I mean, there's a reason this only happened for one game, but that really helps it stay in its own time capsule. Modern Warfare 3 was truly an experience that you just had to be there for. Competitive was at an all-time high because of game battles, and Elite being its own clan battle hub. This game pushed the competitive side of Call of Duty in a very positive direction. And I can honestly say there is yet to be a Call of Duty game to impact me as much as this game did on a multiplayer level. But I've yapped long enough, and now before I go, I do want to say it's taken me a bit to get this video out. I have been in the middle of a move, and I've been pretty sick. You could probably hear it in my voice, but I wanted to get this video done. I enjoy Modern Warfare 3 a whole lot. It was one of my favorite Call of Duties. It still is. So I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I'd like to thank you all for watching. It's been Rick Toe. I'll see you in the next one.